We are back on the Spin Room. Thanks for staying with us. Never a dull moment in the Trump White House. Mick Mulvaney, former Republican congressman who will replace John Kelly as chief of staff, is already in kind of hot water. The video shows his, shall I say, utter distaste for Donald Trump in a debate that took place shortly before the 2016 presidential election.
Yes, I'm supporting Donald Trump. I'm doing so as enthusiastically as I can, given the fact I think he's a terrible human being. But the choice on the other side is just as bad.
And it didn't end there. In a Facebook post from 2016, Mulvaney wrote about the Access Hollywood tapes, quote, "I think one thing we've learned about Donald Trump during this campaign is that he is not a very good person. What he said in the audio tape is disgusting and indefensible. My guess is that he has probably said even worse. I've decided that I don't particularly like Donald Trump as a person, but I am still voting for him." I can't wait to see what my guests think about that. Executive Director at Build the Wave, Nate Lerner, and member of the National Advisory Board of Trump 2020, Mica Mosbacher. Thanks for coming on the show, guys. It is great to see you. Mica, I want to start with you. I guess the two of them have, kind of put this behind them. But how do you see this? Can Mulvaney bring order to the West Wing?
Well, he's an excellent choice, and the president admires that sort of candor. If you'll recall the president's rhetoric toward Ted Cruz, he called him Lying Ted. He called Jeb Bush low-energy Jeb. During the campaign, there were a lot of things that were hurled around that weren't necessarily complimentary, but the president welcomes other individuals' viewpoints. And sometimes the mainstream media describes that as chaos in the Washington because it is not typically the way the systems have been run in the past in the White House. But Trump is a businessman, and he has the utmost confidence in Mick Mulvaney. He has been in charge of a $92 million budget and about 529 employees, and oversees those agencies
if he has the utmost confidence, why is he only calling him acting chief of staff?
He has the absolute utmost confidence. Mulvaney is a seasoned individual who understands how Congress operates, and especially as we go into this next congressional session, having lost a majority in the House, it will be really important for an individual with Mulvaney's experience to implement those policies that are important to President Trump. He also is working in the White House right now, so he understands the president.
Okay, Nate, I want to go to Nate. Nate, your reaction, because if Chief Kelly tried to limit access to the president until now things could be a bit different. What kind of West Wing are we going to see?
It's hard to predict because, as you saw with Kelly, he came in promising. As you saw with Kelly, he came in promising to create order, to reduce the chaos, to limit access to Trump. But Trump just steamrolled him. He's not one to be controlled, which is probably not really ideal considering the way he operates. And the constant chaos we have seen in the White House really is reflective of how Trump has run his businesses, and that isn't what you need in the highest office in the land. We want order, we want organization, we want attention to detail. And you have not seen that. You've seen him blow through so many staffers, one after another, more than any other president in history. And that's extremely reflective of how he operates and how he's not fit for the position. And I don't understand how Trump supporters can sit by and see what's happening day after day in the administration with people leaving, with his senior staffers calling him a moron and an idiot and leaking constantly to the press, and feel good about that and feel good about their choice for president.
All right, I want to move on to our next topic.
Well, first...
Okay, you know what, Mica, I'll let you respond. It looks like you want to say something before we move on. Quickly, go ahead.
Quickly, I would say that those individuals, such as the former Secretary of State who allegedly called Trump a moron, it sounds like sour grapes. Not everyone's personality will fit with Trump's business style. But he certainly, I have many friends who work with Mick Mulvaney in the White House, and I can assure you that the White House is operating as a well-oiled machine, despite the leaks that are coming out from the disgruntled never-Trumpers that do exist in the White House, by the way.
So a leaky machine, yeah.
Okay, all right, okay, let's move on. With the midterms over, 'tis the season to make some 2020 presidential decisions. Who will be the Democratic challenger to Donald Trump? A new CNN Iowa poll among likely 2020 Democratic caucus goers shows former Vice President Joe Biden in the lead with 32%, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders at 19%, Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke at 11%, and the women lagging behind, 8% for Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and 5% for California Senator Kamala Harris. I'll start with you, Nate. Are these findings surprising to you?
Not at all. And I think what's important to keep in mind here is that of all those candidates, Biden and Sanders are really the only ones who've ever campaigned in Iowa because they both ran for president. And I think it really does stand out that a congressman from Texas who has spent very little time in Iowa is in third place in that poll. Beto O'Rourke is absolutely the one to watch right now. I'm personally very much behind him. I was absolutely blown away with the campaign he ran against Ted Cruz, his positive progressive vision for our country, and the way he's able to connect with voters from all different backgrounds is absolutely unparalleled. And what's especially interesting about him is he's really the only candidate running that has run against a Republican at such a high level. All the other Democrats in this race have really only competed against other Democrats in safe Democratic states. But Beto has that unique experience of running against one of the dirtiest and strongest Republicans in the game, Ted Cruz, and coming out cleaner on the other end. And he has such a unique amount of grassroots momentum behind him to a degree that we've never really seen before this early on in a presidential race. And we're really excited to tap into that and build something from it.
Yeah, Mica, let's talk about Biden and Beto, if they are, in fact, looking to team up. Why does Joe Biden, with his decades of experience in Capitol Hill, need Beto, who is a newcomer? He energized the base, but he didn't win his Senate race on the ticket with him.
Well, you know, it's interesting because I think Beto O'Rourke is where Obama was 12 years ago in the polls. So he is a fresh face. He definitely is charismatic. I'm from Texas. My state senator is Ted Cruz. And I have to say it was a wake-up call to Texans. First of all, the millennials normally don't get out and vote, despite the fact that they're about 23% or so of the electorate. The fact that they got out and voted in record numbers was really significant. Additionally, I always look at the ability to raise money. And this was the most expensive Senate campaign in history. So Beto is a proven fundraiser. And I would say, though, that here's the issue that I see in the Democratic Party. They're split. They've got the extreme leftists, the progressives in the party, such as the Betos. Then they or even Bernie Sanders, and then they have the more moderates like Biden. So I think that the Democrats have to work on their messaging. Besides health care and the fact that I think that was very important during the midterm elections, they do not seem to have a message. And if they don't work with the Republicans and pass some bipartisan legislation such as infrastructure, I think they're going to be in trouble going into 2020.
All right, I want to move on to our next topic, and that is the Weekly Standard. Closed by its owner, Clarity Media Group, on Friday. It was an abrupt ending. Workers were told to leave their offices by 5 p.m. The owner, GOP mega-donor Philip Anschutz, shut down the most anti-Trump conservative media outlet after a 23-year run, and the president could not have been happier, tweeting, "The pathetic and dishonest Weekly Standard, run by failed prognosticator Bill Kristol, who, like many others, never had a clue, is flat broke and out of business. Too bad. May it rest in peace." You know, Nate, some pundits are calling this the final nail in the coffin of the neoconservative movement. Would you agree with that, or will their ideas keep resonating?
It's hard to say if it's the final nail, but it's certainly a very telltale sign. Sure. And we've seen this, I don't know if we've seen a pretty rapid takeover of the party. It's been a little concerning how quickly the Republicans just gave up control to Trump, and they're really the party of Trump at this point. And you still see a lot of moderate members of Congress who are afraid to stand up to him for the exact same reason that we're seeing now with the Standard. They're afraid they're going to have to pay for it in their primary elections. And it's really sad because, you know, I don't believe the majority of the Republican Party actually stands by everything that Trump says and does, but they've just completely given into him. And his supporters have completely overrun the party. So a vote for Republicans, for any Republican at this point, is really a vote for Trump. It's a vote for extremism. It's a vote for everything he represents, because the moderate side of the party is very much dead and gone, which is sad to see.
Okay. Mica, before you respond to Nate, I want to ask you really quickly as well. Should the president be happy when people lose their jobs?
It had nothing to do with that. First of all, the Weekly Standard had outlived its usefulness. Not only was it no longer a viable business model, and Philip Anschutz, who is a billionaire for a reason, understood that it was losing money up to $2 to $4 million a year. So that was one problem. Secondly, we have conservatives that are never Trumpers, that are former establishment individuals. That's when the Weekly Standard was at its peak, was under the Bush administration. And at that point, there were hawkish individuals such as General Rumsfeld and Dick Cheney that were pro the invasion of Iraq. However, our party has now morphed into more of a populist Trump type of conservatism, but I would argue very strongly that there's still a huge audience for conservatives and also for those writers who are with traditional conservative think tanks like the American Enterprise Institute, and that the Washington Examiner will just take up the slack, as well as Breitbart and Daily Caller and some of the other conservative outlets who actually are very well sourced and are surviving in now what is a digital age.
Nate,
so I think part of this was a business decision.
Yeah, Nate, you want to react to that?
Thank you.
I don't know if I call it Breitbart well sourced. It's what's concerning is that you're creating this news bubble where anyone who disagrees with the president is fake news. They're liars. They're wrong. I really, whatever happened to civil political discourse where it's okay to disagree with somebody and then get along with them at the end of the day. And what scares me the most about Trump's rhetoric around the media is the way he just dismisses anyone who's against him as being a liar and a crook and fake news. We should be welcoming different opinions and different sides, and it's a scary reality when our media is being pushed down like that, because we really do need them as a watchdog. They're absolutely critical. We've seen time and time again where they've come in and held government, where they've held corporations and people in power accountable, and to lose that is very dangerous in a democracy, especially one as powerful as ours.
Mica, really quickly before we go, we only have a minute left. I mean, maybe this really doesn't have anything to do with Trump, more the issue of billionaires that are taking over media outlets and not getting what they want.
Well, I'm a First Amendment person, by the way, and I am a journalist. And so I agree about civil discourse, but I do not feel that Trump had anything to do with the demise of the Weekly Standard. I feel that that was Philip Anschutz and Clarity Media, and that was their decision. And in terms of fake news, some of the media has earned it. Some of my colleagues have not done a very good job citing sources, and I think that they have been at times very reckless with their reporting. And so if they've earned that label, I think they deserve it.
Okay. That's all the time I have. Nate and Mica, thank you very much for coming on The Spinner today. It's been an honor having you on the show.